I always like to begin the show by explaining the premise and how I came up with the idea of doing this thing. And the franchise show is, as you might have guessed, it's about franchising, but it's also a place where we can have discussions and debates about all sorts of topics that relate not just to franchising, but to the world of being an entrepreneur, to franchisors, to franchisees, and to the franchising community in general. So we take a different topic each week and we have a bit of a deep delve into that topic and see what everyone has to say about that. It's part of a body of work. So we're going to do all sorts of different things with what we do on the episodes, things like how-to guides and top 10 lists, maybe even an anthology, YouTube shorts, and we have the LinkedIn Live as well. It's great when people are here, and if people are here and if people would like to contribute and make a comment, I always like to bring that into the discussion because we're all a community together, and by having comments, it drives the conversation and it drives it into different avenues and different ways that we might not have thought it would have gone. So I love having a comment. I love hearing what our fellow franchise professionals have to say about the subject. I'm always really excited when people are here because, as I say, we're one big happy family. So wanted to introduce the topic for this week. And the topic this week is franchise promotion. And it's quite a wide topic. And as franchisors or even franchisees, we are always looking to promote what we do. So if we're a franchisor, maybe we're looking for new franchisees, maybe we're looking to promote the brand. And there are so many different ways to do that. So much different media choices to use. And when you do choose a way to do it, there's a right and a wrong way, and there are different ways to do it. So hopefully we can understand, what media and what promotions people have used and how they've been successful or unsuccessful, and perhaps give a little bit of advice or have a conversation about what might work well. And again, to go with a topic, we have a lovely expert. And today is definitely no different. We have a wonderful expert and a fantastic chap, Kevin Ayres. And
Thank you very much.
Kevin is a great expert on all things film and photography. We've known each other for a while. As you can see, the quality of Kevin's footage, even on this, is vastly superior to mine. I always say that it's the quality of the talk, but it's also the quality.
King, absolutely, content is king. Yeah,
it's also the quality of what you're going to see. So I will heed some of Kevin's advice, I'm sure, after this, and you'll see a lovely improved camera and a better microphone in the future, I'm sure. So with that, I would like to introduce you all to Kevin and hear what he's got to say as a sort of an opening gambit for franchise promotion and video and photography and how we might use that. Over to you.
Oh wow, that's a pretty big topic. Well, firstly, it's lovely to see some people on board here. Hi Tim, hi Natalia, especially. Very small text on my screen.
That's all right. It's going up. It's coming up here.
Yeah, it's lovely to see. Like I've done a lot of these things over the years. I was talking to Tim and Natalia about this actually the other day, and saying about I used to do some live stuff in virtual worlds. Some of the stuff Meta are doing now. It's people talk about the metaverse. We were kind of doing stuff like that at IBM, along with a few other people like 15 years ago, and when you're on these things, it's just really nice to know that somebody is actually listening when you're looking at that little black dot, that's the camera. you're like, I really hope somebody's actually bothering to listen to this, because it is a bit lonely otherwise, and you kind of just, chatting away, and it's just, you know what it's like. You've got to keep things going, but like if someone's listening, that's always nice.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, massive topic, and I'd love you to drive it, but I think why this is a particularly interesting topic to look at is, like, I don't think anyone's expecting there to be less need for video next year. Do you know what I mean? The way social media is going, the way technology is going, we've all got in our pocket a phone with an incredible camera, and now we've got 5G, and everybody's got 4G, but now if you're in London or a place like that, you've got 5G, and you've got a whole generation of people growing up who know how to use these things really quite well. They're very amazing content creators, and so I don't think anyone's expecting video there to be less need for video, right? So I think in terms of should any business owner be thinking about including video and as part of their strategy, then I think the answer is fairly obvious. The problem is that video is kind of hard, and it's kind of a bit of a faff, frankly. And I think people get a bit too tied up with exactly what you said. They get tied up with it's not perfect. And actually, the kind of video that does really well is not the really perfect stuff. In fact, reminds me of an article somebody posted the other day where they were kind of bemoaning the fact the brand had spent a huge amount of money on this really fancy video, and it totally bombed. And he said that it'd be far better off putting that money in the hands of a bunch of influencers or even their own staff, and make 20 different videos and see which one lands, and then really hammer that one, and do some little experiments. So I think, that idea of content is king is really important. Like this camera that I use, compared to most people's webcam, it is really good. But it's also the camera that I use professionally, like 10 years ago. It's fairly old now. And for a professional camera, it was actually fairly entry level. It's like about £2,500, something like that. But it's fairly entry level. It didn't matter. Like nobody ever asked me, like, what camera are you using to shoot stuff on? People only ever care about the content. And I always used to joke, people would rather see the Matrix on a black and white mono telly than they would their mate's holiday video on a widescreen surround sound system. Do you know what I mean? Because one's really well edited, one's got amazing storytelling, and the other one hasn't, at the end of the day. So those things are far, far more important.
That's really interesting, actually. I quite like about what you said there, comparing the Matrix to somebody's sort of photo reel, because it's absolutely the point. It's the content. The content does count. Before we continue on with our discussion, I'd like to formally recognise a few people that are here and say hello.
Sure.
So we've got Tim. Tim's a fantastic chap, and really looking forward.
Can I just say I agree? I think he actually ought to have that on his bio. I know
Fantastic
he would never
chap.
There, but I think we ought to actually put it on there. Just because I use similar sort of words. So
I agree, definitely, I agree. And Tim is going to be a guest later next year. Sort of middle of next year. So I'm really looking forward to having Tim as a guest. We've got William here as well. Hi, William. Great to see William. William is from the US, and he has I think it's pickleball, it's called, and it looks great fun. And he's building a franchise there. So fantastic to.
I've heard of that. I don't know what it is. Anything with ball in the title, I'm probably bad at. So.
It looks like a fun bat and ball game, but excited to hear more about. And hopefully we'll have Richard on. We'll have William on one day, and he can have a chat about it. Maybe we'll have a game live on air. I've juggled live on one of these, I think. So we've got Lisette here, new to the show, so really, really good to have you here, and really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on all things to do with video and promotions. We've got Natalia here. Fantastic to see you. I had a lovely conversation with Natalia the other day, and she's going to be a guest on the show as well. So fantastic to see you here. We have Jitten. Oh, it's always good to see Jitten. Jitten, fantastic guy, going to be a guest, and he was a franchisee at age 22. So we're going to be speaking. We're going to be speaking about being a franchisee when you're very young, which is going to be a great conversation. We've got Penny here, Penny Hopkinson.
Hey.
I think everybody knows Penny.
Favorite franchise friend.
Yes, absolutely. Penny has written, I'm going to promote, but she's written this book.
I've got my copy over there.
Well, there you go. You've sold 2 copies, definitely there then. But it's great to have you here. I'm really, really interested to hear how video and photography play a part in ops and an ops manual. Because you get QR codes going to videos now that give you, an indication as to what you're meant to do in certain situations. So I think it's really relevant as well. I'm going to go back to that one because it's a long one but I want to make sure we say hello to everyone first. So sure. We've got David Sweeney, who's new to the show. Great to see you, David. And he says, great hat. Well, thank you.
Shouldn't I? I might have to go and get a hat.
That's it. It's catching. We've got Penny's come back with saying, I edited a book on pickleball a few months ago. Oh, well, there you go. Penny, you need to connect up with William and talk pickleballs. That's not something I ever thought I'd say, but oh, well, look, there you go. We've now got exactly what it is because William has said it's giant ping pong. Well, that sounds great fun. And what a brilliant way to put it as well. We've got Malcolm here as well. Fantastic. Hey, great to see Malcolm, and another franchising expert, a QFP. Hopefully I'll become one of those one day. And we've got another good comment here from Lisette, and we will come back to that as well. If it's all right with you, Kevin, let's bring up a comment here that Tim's put and see what we make of this one. One of the fantastic things about video is it really helps in developing positive relationships with your audience and building a personal brand. Kevin, you need to hold me to account. Here we go then. What do you make of that one?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, I always say, it's certainly not my comment. It's like people buy from people, right? And so the number of people I see from small business all the way through to quite big brands who hide behind their product, and you look at their website. So just to give you an example, a friend of ours was going through a messy divorce, and she was looking for a solicitor, and she went on their websites, and they just had all the standard stock images of, scales of justice and blah, 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 all this sort of nonsense. She just wanted a friendly face. It's like a really traumatic thing. She's like, who is going to be dealing with my actual case? Who's going to be helping me through this? And all she wanted was a friendly face, and she couldn't find one. Like literally, all the solicitors she looked at didn't have photos. They didn't have videos of the people who were going to be delivering the service. And so had somebody done that straight away, they'd have won her business, no questions, because that's what she was looking for. And so they're hiding behind the product, talking about the product. But really, the product is them. It's not what the service they do. It's them that's delivering the product. And so I think the idea is like get out from behind the metaphorically and actually, when you go to exhibition stands, exhibitions, you can tell people who are fairly new at doing that or have never done it before, because they've been given the table by the conference organizer. I went to one the other day, and they've been given the table, they've got a nice tablecloth, and where are they? They're sat behind the table, right? Total schoolboy error. It's like, if they give you a table, either don't accept it or push it to the back of the stand, put your stuff on it and stand in front of it. You don't sit down, you stand up, because where are people? People are wandering past and you can engage with them, right? So anything you put, they've metaphorically put their product between the audience and them. And so it's not very engaging. And so as soon as you put the product there and you're in front of it, then you can engage with people. So I think that's one way of looking at it, is like, just never mind the product. It's like, who are the people involved? And Fit 20, ultimately, they've got a fantastic. I'm friends with Duncan in Exeter, who's the franchisee down here for Fit 20. Fantastic product, amazing concept, but ultimately, who's delivering the service? It's the franchisees. And so, think about franchise marketing. The way I describe, my definition of a franchisee is the friendly local face of the national brand. And so, if you haven't got your friendly local face out there, you're missing a trick, because if you compared two brands, one is really friendly and seems really personable, and their staff or the franchisee is out there, and you've got one that isn't, who's going to win?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and that brought us very nicely onto this comment as well. So Lisette says, so happy to be here. I'm responsible for marketing for the franchise Fit 20 UK. So the topic video is really important to me. So yeah, I'm really, really interested to see, how you've used that, or, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And if there's ways that we can all use video in a better way, and for better reasons. I mean, I think you're right. Going back actually to, and I want to put Tim's comment quickly back up here as well, because it says building a personal brand. I had a conversation earlier today with somebody who does an audio event, and I toyed with the idea of doing an audio event. And yes, my video quality isn't good, but the interesting thing, about building a personal brand, and people joke about my lovely hat, but it's people get to see your character, and see. Also, you can read body language with a video call now that I'm talking about. But even if you're doing a video for your franchise, or your franchisor has produced a video for you to look at, there's all sorts of things beyond the words being spoken that are delivered via a medium of video. And again, when you're on LinkedIn as well, and you're trying to engage with an audience, whether you're a franchisor, whether you're a franchisee, whether you're an entrepreneur, or just somebody trying to engage with an audience there, if you put some words, you put a post out there, it'll have one level of engagement. Suddenly if you add a photograph to that, something interesting, that's going to capture a little bit more. Then you put a video.
And just to jump in there, so what we're programmed from birth to look for eyes. Babies will look, they won't look at your chin, they won't look at your ear, they'll look straight in your eyes right from birth. And so when we see a face scrolling past, we are drawn to that on social media. And so if that face is, it's a badly taken photo, or the shadows are a bit off, and so that person, so say, just to take an extreme, say that person is taken in silhouette with a big bright window behind them, and the camera's got overwhelmed, and they look a bit dark. Now, subconsciously, that person looks sinister, they don't look trustworthy. And just flipped around so that the light is on their face. Now they look friendly, engaging. They've got a slight, you can see here, I've got a slight twinkle in my eye from this light up here.
I think that was your natural charisma.
Well, it helps, right? It helps. It makes you look more alert. And if you don't have that, it's what we call in photography, or some people call possum eye. So you look sort of dead, and you don't look engaging. Frankly, you look less intelligent, less. And whenever you've seen a cartoon, you'll notice often they have that sort of the iris, and they have a little notch taken out of it to sort of simulate the sunshine down from above. And that's part of what we look for in an eye, is that slight twinkle, and it just makes people look alive.
That's really interesting that you should say that, because when we're trying to get our brands out there, when we're trying to promote our brands, and when you say, and we're facing endless scrolling past different things, and if people are looking for faces, they're looking for eyes, that's that's a great piece of advice and a great tip.
Really, really simple thing to do. And again, if you're talking all about your product, you scroll past. So I'll just pick on Fit20 again. So say they've got Duncan on there looking smiley, like they might have some equipment in the background, but say if I'm just seeing a piece of equipment, like there's no context, what does it mean? It's just not that visually engaging because we're not programmed to look for exercise equipment. We're programmed to look for eyes, right? So, when you see a friendly face and then there's some exercise equipment behind, then, there's some context and people go, oh, well, I might have a go at that because he seems really friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a level of engagement when you can, certainly on these things with a LinkedIn Live, there's a level of engagement because people can see our faces. There's an extra element of reality there.
Yeah.
It is real, but there's, when it's a live thing as well. I mean, I'd like to go to some comments in a minute because there's
lots here.
But what's your sort of take on live events such as this one versus edited footage in terms of engagement?
It's really horses for courses. So what you're doing here, and I've considered doing the same thing, or something not the same thing, but so using live a bit more. I've done a lot of live stuff in the past. It's really horses for courses. So the nice thing about this is, especially if you don't put it out again, there is an immediacy of having to watch it live. Once people know they can watch the replay, they go, oh, watch the replay. And of course, when do they watch the replay? Never. So there is an immediacy and, the classic marketing of create a sense of urgency and lack, right? There's urgency. You've got to watch it now. There's lack. You won't be able to watch it again. Now I can't remember whether you put these up you probably put them up recorded. I tend to watch them live, but
I do, but there's not that same to watch it. And I get what you're saying. Yes, it's it's available on YouTube. It's available as a LinkedIn replay. It's it is available to absorb again, but not in the same way. Because
there's something about live, knowing it's live, because you can do the interaction here and so on.
Exactly, and you can't get that by watching a replay. But before we go on, I'd just like to go back because there's
sorry, just before you do that, just on the live thing, it is a skill. Now, I can, and I'm guessing you have without being rude, you have the same skill. You kind of need to be able to make this work. You do need to be able to talk the hind leg off a donkey because you might have a guest who is not particularly engaging, who kind of doesn't give you decent answers or long answers or whatever. And so you've got to kind of fill. You can't have dead air. And so to keep that going, that isn't for everyone. And so whilst I would say video is for pretty much there are a few people who just really don't get on with it. I have come across one, maybe two in my whole career who just couldn't do it. And even one of them was ill at the time. So I think most people will get some benefit from video. But doing live video like this, there is another layer of skill to just be able to fill and engage and, is that sort of presenter mode. And again, I've done a lot of it over the years in different guises. I did some presenting out in Las Vegas with IBM on a stand and things like that. So that isn't for everyone. I would say it's another level.
That's it, and it's about how in terms of dead air, it's okay sometimes. I think on a LinkedIn Live, sometimes because it's part of it. Because sometimes they'll ask you a question, you think, I'm not sure, but it's a balance. I think it's a balance.
Yeah, it's not at the end of the day, this is not the BBC. It's not going out on the 6 o'clock news or something. So it's not that imperative, but it's
how dare you? Right, but look, I really do want to make sure we get to these comments. Some great ones, so I'm going to put a few up here. Recognize a few more people. David Sweeney has put, I'm doing a lot of work in sub-Saharan Africa, introducing people to the world of franchising. That's fantastic. Really good, and really interested to see how things are different in different sectors in different parts of the world with different communities as to how video promotion works across the globe, because
Yeah.
we're lucky enough to be able to talk to people here from all over the world, and that are promoting things all over the world. So it's different perhaps in different countries, and absolutely worth considering that. Penny has come back here to say it's great for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram generations who are more visual. This is especially true for young millennials, Gen Z, who are used to learning via video. It's far more engaging in terms of the operation manual than loads of text. That's great. So Penny was just talking there about when we mentioned her book, in terms of how that could be created into video content for producing or teaching people the ops side. So that's fantastic advice there as well. I think we touched on this one from Lisette. Our brilliant Duncan is one that does video really well, but it is quite challenging to get the rest of my franchisees to do the same.
I hear that a lot. Yeah.
They need to be the local hero and to show their faces, which is, obviously touching on what you said there about being that local hero. And
that's actually how I literally a sentence like that is how I got into doing this and how I got into the franchise sector, because a franchisor approached me and said, like, I do video, I love video. He used to be an actor. And he said, my franchisees need to be able to do video. They're not doing it. They hate it. They don't know what they're doing. I can't get them to do it. Can you help me? Right. And that's kind of how I got into, setting up Cadence Video Academy, and now doing more sort of, I also do a lot of remote video production. Again, quite simple, low grade video, but it's all about the content. It's not about fancy cameras.
No, absolutely. And I think that's really interesting as well, because I think I think as franchisors, our biggest challenge, I mean, we have many, but in terms of video production, if you're a franchisor and you're in control of your marketing campaigns and the video content that you put out in various mediums, that's one side. But absolutely, the point that Lisette has made here about getting your franchisees to be on brand standard and producing the same quality stuff that aligns in the same way is very much a challenge, and something that that you need to use expertise to overcome. So hopefully people can reach out to you if they need help in that way.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the kind of thing I help with. And on that, I think it's an interesting question. I've already seen a number of franchise brand guidelines, and usually people don't have brand guidelines around video. So it's really if you think about that, you're asking your franchisees to be on brand, but then you haven't really told them what that means when it comes to video. Do you mean the content of the video? Do you mean the branding on the video? Do you mean the words you're using on the video? Do you mean the type of camera and production values that it's being filmed with, etc.? So it's quite a complex question when you start thinking about it. And I would argue that the key thing is the messaging right? And all of the other stuff kind of takes care of itself up to a point. And it's something is like, think about the end result you want rather than the means to get there. Because at the end of the day, if somebody's filming something with an iPhone and it's a little bit shaky, but the messaging is brilliant and they seem to be getting loads of engagement, like, so what? It doesn't matter. But if they could be, got somebody and it's all super duper, but they look really bored and, the messaging is terrible and they look, like a rabbit in the headlights, and there's no engagement, it won't work, right? So it's quite a complex thing, but I think what the key thing is not to be scared of it. It's better to have people out there experimenting a little bit, making a few mistakes, and then you go, oh, I love what you did there, but why don't we change it so it's like that? Because business is moving really fast. I think that's a better place to be than don't do it, stop, don't do any video, and everybody's scared of upsetting the franchisor, and then you don't get anything. I think it's
no, I think you're very wise in that, and I think that's good advice as well. Let me see what Tim's got to say here. Kevin, do you think video should be used to overtly sell the product or service, or should it be to build a relationship with the person in the video, the local face of the national brand? What do you think about that?
Yes, it's yes to all of that. And I think if you think of the customer journey, I know it's used a lot, but I think it is really helpful that at some point you've got to tell people what it is what it is and why they should buy it, right? And you may not put it as directly as that, but you've got to move past relationship to actually explain, and at some point that is really important. But yes, I think especially if what you're selling is people-based, it's more service-based. This is especially true. I think it doesn't matter if it is product-based. People still buy into the people, the values and stuff behind that physical product as well. So, but it's even more relevant when the people are the product and you have a service-based business. So I think if you think of the mistake, and I think we all make it. I make the same mistake, by the way. It's easy to see in other people's stuff, but ultimately we want to make the sale, right? We want to sell the thing, and so the danger is you try and compress that customer journey down too much, and you go for the kill, you go for the close. And I see this franchisors doing this a lot with franchisees. Their sort of tactic feels like it's from the 1980s. It's like, you just heard about us, download the brochure and then give us a call, right? And so they're trying to compress a large amount of that customer journey down to download something, give us a call, right? And I would argue that those two things are properly separated by several weeks now. People want to do their own research and they want to go on a journey of trust before they're prepared to pick up the phone to you. And if that's your customer journey, and someone else has created a much more detailed customer journey where they can self-service by seeing video content, articles, testimonials, a whole load of stuff, then they're going to beat you, because I always joke with people that I would put more research into buying an electric toothbrush than that. Do you know what I mean? And with a franchise, you're asking people to change their whole lives. It's a lifestyle decision for many people, as you buy a management franchise, But for most people, it's a lifestyle decision that requires a huge amount of trust. And so if you are not building that classic sort of know, like, trust, so in the know bit, you might be more about the relationship. The like bit, it's more about the product. And the trust bit, it's more about testimonials and social proof. You can use all of those in all of the, you can't break down quite so much as that. But so conceptually, you could think about it like that. There's lots of different ways to use video to talk about different parts of that, to service the different parts of that journey, if that makes sense.
That's great. Very quickly before we move on, there's some really good comments coming up. Some of the comments for some reason don't show here, so I have to have a quick look here, because there's a few people that won't be on that list that are actually here. So we've got Anjon, and he's just put greetings to Harvey and Kevin. So great to have you here, Anjon. Kelly is here as well. Kelly Steinecker, a huge friend of mine. Her show is after my show at 1:11 Eastern, 6:11 UK time. It's called The Awesome Journey. It's a great show. You need to check that out. We've got Jahindra from India here as well. We've got Don Cohen. Now, I have to mention Don Cohen. He's the reason that I do LinkedIn Live. Great inspiration, fantastic chap. And, very thankful for his insights, and lovely that he's here as well. I think
we got somebody from India. It's nearly midnight there, so that's very keen.
Dedication, you see. So that's just recognizing a few people that for some reason didn't appear on this feed, because I always like to recognize people.
Yeah, no, great.
That's what this show's about. It's about where this conversation goes. There's no pre-scripted stuff here. We just see what we want to talk about and how we want to talk about it. So let me just recognize a few of the other comments that's come up here. So Tim has put Lisette, this is what Kevin specializes in, helping franchisees become comfortable using video. So Tim is a great advocate of yours there, Kevin, and that's fantastic. So really
Thanks,
pleased that we're all supporting one another as we should do. Penny has put the best engagement and number of impression I've had on LinkedIn is the video of unboxing the review copies of Manual Magic. Yeah, so you know, a video, you know, you're sharing that excitement that you've got, and people are gonna see that excitement that you've got, and there's going to be a level of engagement that you don't get without it. But very quickly, before we continue on and stop on a comment, Kevin, I wanted to touch on something that you said there, which was building the trust journey via video and film and promotion. And I think it's really relevant. You know, I often talk about this trust journey, because as a franchisor and a franchisee, that's exactly the journey you're going on. And it starts very early and it lasts a long time. You know, that trust journey can begin with them starting to do some research, and you're a name that might be there, you know, and then they might reach out to you and they've already begun that trust journey. And the more time that you can spend with them, it's why I love this as a medium to grow connections and collaborations and, you know, inform a community and share things with a community, because it's so engaging, because we're all here having a discussion together as a community and growing as a community. It's not about a host or a guest. It's about a community. We're all here asking these questions and trying to understand what the best answer is, you know, and I mean, this is a subject that could cover probably 4 or 5 or more shows, because there's a lot of depth to it. But, you know, that's why then people can reach out if they really want to know a little bit more, reach out to Kevin and really understand how to use video marketing in their own business. So that's great. Let me just have a look at, here is a big comment. So I want to bring this one up. And this is from David. And David has put, we use video a lot at Dodo, both internally and externally. We are now, we are now going to start reporting from the new markets we are exploring. We can write reports and they are useful. But if a picture tells 1,000 words, a video tells 1,000,000. Or like that, I might write that one down. The initial results are great, and we know we will get better as we grow in confidence and skill, especially in editing. Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. As I say, I particularly like the picture tells 1,000 words and a video tells 1,000,000. You know, on LinkedIn, you know, you can just use, you've got various tools at your disposal to use, and you know, to create a LinkedIn live around your own brand is a potential way of doing it. But certainly to create video content, you know, to promote and elevate your brand above somebody else who's not doing that or not doing that as well. Let's just see what Jitin has to say as well. I'll let you take this one, but I'll read it.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. So I ultimately the franchisees are supposed to be copying the franchisor, right? They're supposed to have the plan.
Just quickly before you continue, Kevin, I just want to read to the bottom of it.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah.
What comes up on the screen isn't all of what's
there. Yeah.
So I'm going to read it, and then it'd be great if you could touch on this one. There needs to be a top-down approach, in my opinion, whereby franchisors adopt the same professional marketing practices as franchisees, if not more. At the end of the day, franchisees are the customers of franchisors, absolutely. Furthermore, the visual learning style has always been utilized across different mediums, and in society where social proofing, social media and SEO are so buoyant, video is more imperative to argument and complement traditional marketing methods.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic points there. Please take that one. And what do you think about that?
So I think fundamentally the franchisees, really, the whole point of franchising, right, is you copy what's worked for the franchisor. So if the franchisor is kind of floundering around really and not really using video themselves, you can't really expect the franchisees to do it, and you certainly can't expect them to do it well and copy you, because like, why would they copy you? Because you're doing it badly. And so I think where I found that, it's where I've done educating franchisees, that's not going to work if the franchisor or the franchise team don't get involved, because there's no kind of incentive, there's no community kind of aspect going on. It's got to be both, and so I insist on that now. When I work with franchise networks, it's not something you can just sort of throw money at and expect the franchisees to do if you're not doing it as the franchisor. Just as much as I'd like to take the money, it just won't work. So it's got to be both. And I think if the franchisor though is still new, and we're talking about Fit 20 again, to video, I don't think you need to be afraid of your franchisees doing it better than you, but like, use them, bring them their skill back, and then share it with everyone else. Like, show me how to do this, and then we can push this out, and we can all benefit from that. I think harness that. Don't be scared of it. But again, I think there's a little bit of an implication there in that previous comment about just experiment, right? What works, and I think with a lot of these things, you just don't know what works, and so unless you're experimenting and trying stuff, when I first used video on LinkedIn, people said really like it, it's a bit too long, and I was used to video, a few years ago, where people had longer attention spans, and they were saying that format is now too long, and so I was putting that videos that are about 2.5 minutes. People said, like, if you keep it at a minute, I'd really like the content, but just chop it down to a minute. It's like, okay. But I wouldn't have known. So I could have felt really bad. Oh, I'm supposed to know this stuff. But I found that out by experimenting. I put something out, got some feedback, changed it. Now when I put videos out, they're a minute long,
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think experimenting and trying stuff out, seeing what works, what doesn't, seeing what people like and what people don't like. How do you think you judge the success of some video footage? I mean, obviously you ask people, but where do you see it in terms of things like comments, likes, engagement, business coming from it? Where's the judgment in terms of how successful you've been with your video?
So I think it depends on what you were trying to do. So to Tim's point, he said about, is it relationship? Is it sales? At what point are you using this? So just to give you a kind of almost a converse use of video. So on that know, like, trust journey, say you're using it on your website, not so much on LinkedIn or something, but people have entered your funnel, right? Your new franchisee funnel. You actually can use video as a qualification step, because ultimately it's going to be you as the franchisor people deal with, your passion, your values, etc. And if people don't share those values, and they don't really want to put the work in or whatever, you don't really want to waste time on a discovery call with the wrong people, explaining the same old things over and over and over and over again. And you might have had a bad day anyway. If you can put that on a video, like, you have your best answer, and maybe even some things that put people off slightly, or put the wrong people off, then the success of that video will be less people through your funnel. But there'll be the right people, because if they can't, so for example, say they can't be bothered to watch 5 videos, they're probably not that interested in what you want to sell, right? So you don't want to talk to them. They can't be bothered to watch 5 short videos or 3 short videos, then don't bother speaking to them. So that is less leads, but they're the right leads, because you're qualifying them out. So I think it really depends what you're trying to do. So if it was a Facebook ad, it might be number of hits, which video performs well and gets people to click through to the funnel. You can measure that very, very clearly. if it's, you know, what are you trying to do, and did it do that thing ultimately? That's the key thing to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really interesting, and I know you and I have spoken about turning frequently asked questions into videos, and that's something that I'd never really thought of before as something to do with a frequently asked question. And I don't think many people do, and it's a really engaging way. I also really like about what you've said there about using it as a filtering process, because you, as a franchisor, you know, we all get lots of leads come in because lots of people are interested in becoming franchisees and, you know, and understanding what that model means. But that generally speaking, the conversion rate there is relatively low. So you've got to find the sort of the people who are really truly interested in your business, and you've got to try and do that in a way that you don't lose out. You don't miss anybody, and you find the ones that are really interested. So I think it's really interesting to try and use video to help you in that sort of filtering process. We've got a couple more comments. One of the things that we spoke about before, though, before this went live, was about where you position yourself on a video. And I wanted to touch on this because we said it beforehand, and I think people need to hear that. But perhaps you could explain a little bit about the principles of, and I'm trying to...
So hopefully, if you remember nothing else, hopefully you will now look better on every Zoom you ever go on again. Okay, so there's a few classic mistakes people make about their positioning. This is nothing to do with how fancy your webcam is or anything like that. I'm not talking about any fancy equipment, fancy mics or anything. There's a few things you can do to instantly improve how you look on Zoom. So first thing is, like, where are you positioned in the shot? Because I see a lot of people, I don't know whether I can go any lower on this chair, but you see a lot of people position themselves in the middle like this, or even worse, down here, or sometimes they're not even really paying any attention, and they
need to take that comment off,
and they're kind of peering over the edge of the desk. I have seen people kind of do that, and they're like, what are you doing? You know, you wouldn't turn up to if I came to your office and sort of sat here like this, you'd think I was mad, right? So, but people do that on Zoom all the time, that sort of thing. So think of every news report you've ever read, you've ever watched, you know, the BBC News, whatever. See where they're positioned, and they always position themselves with a little bit of headroom. And if you break up the screen into what we call the rule of thirds, you know, like a noughts and crosses board, so it separates it into thirds this way and that way, you want your eyes on that top line. So if you imagine, that's pretty much right. So you know, you're splitting into thirds with a little bit of headroom. The next thing is, are you looking horizontally at the camera? Because an awful lot of people, and as you were when we sort of pre
still am. In fact, I'm going to change it. You watch this. This is proving it's a LinkedIn Live, and let's see whether this makes different. Here's some Charles Dickens books.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Can we just get Ed's comment off there? Because I want to come back to that. But it's just not what we're talking about now. I'd love to come back to that.
Of course.
Yes, great. Yeah, cool. Can we just take the comments off?
Yes. Hold on. There you go.
That's great. Right. So the idea is, are you looking because if you're at a laptop, often you're looking down at the laptop, and if you're looking down at the laptop, it means you're really looking down at your audience, and nobody really wants to feel looked down on. Right, so you want it pretty much level, and that often means get the Charles Dickens out, get the family Bible, or, you know, the shoebox or whatever it is off the bookcase, stick it under the, you know, something fairly chunky and stable, stick it under your laptop, and now tip the laptop forward, and now it's kind of pointing at your eyes, so just as you are now, perfect, right? Third thing you can do is video is all about light. You know, photography ultimately means painting with light or drawing with light, and video is just moving photography, right? So it's the quality of the light, the amount of light, where it's coming from, and the size of the light, etc., makes a huge difference to the perception of things like trust and so on. Like I said before about this little catch light in your eye and so on. So the ideal place to have the light is in front of you and ideally slightly to one side and about up there somewhere, right? So I've got a light. I've actually got a pro light here, but you don't need a pro light. You can just have a window, right? So make sure you're facing a window. North facing is ideal.
Or one of those.
Yeah, so that's slightly behind you or to one side. So you're very strongly lit to one side. So if you bring that lamp a bit forward, if you put it about 2 feet forward to you,
not going to work because it's on the floor, but
yeah, you can't do that. But if you can, just get any old table lamp, or will it pivot? And is there a wall behind your laptop?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that won't work. But what you can do is bounce it off the wall, and then you make a really nice. You effectively turn the wall, as long as it's a white wall, it turns it effectively into really big light, and that's really flattering. So if you just get an angle poised lamp, shine it at the wall rather than shine it at you, and then the light coming back will be all nice and soft, and
Cool.
that's really good.
Sounds really good. I'm conscious of time because we normally like to keep this 45 to 50 minutes and we're at about that time. But we have got a couple of comments which I am going to bring up before we sort of round things off and conclude things in the next 5 or 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to bring up Jitin's comment here as well. Being both on the franchisee side and the franchisor side, I've always found video makes things more human. It shows the franchise in its true entirety. In particular, I found video testimonials made the proposition more real, and moreover, prospects found it a lot more engaging, seeing what a day in the life of a franchisee looks like with real people, as opposed to hearing and reading things in the third person to qualify leads. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I mean, I find that very personally interesting for the work that I do. I think that's a very clever idea. That day in the life of a franchisee, to have that video very quickly. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. I mean, things like day in the life of videos. I think I think mediums like this are going to become more important because in the world of AI and ChatGPT, it's really easy to sort of churn out a load of text to stick on your website, and people are better at worse than at doing that, depending on how they're good at prompting. But I mean, we've only been doing this for about a year, right? So you've got to think it's going to get a lot better over the next 2. You probably won't be able to tell it is written by ChatGPT. They'll get rid of the stupid summary it always puts at the end and all that sort of thing. It'll get better, right? And so this person just sounds really ethical and they sound really engaging and you meet them, you think, oh my goodness, this person's completely hopeless, and they don't believe that at all. Right? It's quite hard to fake that on video over any length of time. And a situation like this, you could imagine a situation where this is AI in maybe 2 years' time or a year, well, maybe a year's time, but it's moving very rapidly. But like, why would you want to? It's kind of like, it's just easier to do it like this. Yeah, it kind of doesn't really make sense to do it as AI. But this comes across really authentic, right? It comes really authentic.
Because it is.
My prediction for 2024 is, like, 2023 was about authenticity and trust as well. But I think that's only going to get more so. I think the need to be authentic and build genuine trust and personal engagement in a world of AI kind of that we're about to be, deluged with, because loads of people are offering it.
No, you're right, and you're right about doing something like this, especially the live version. One of the reasons I do it is I don't have to edit it.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I know I hate editing as well. It's just like,
and actually,
anybody done any editing, you spend ages, and people go, "Oh, it's quite good that," and you think, "Good. I've just spent my entire weekend doing it."
Well, you know what? Exactly. And you know what? That's a perfect one to move on to the final comment and to say hello to the wonderful Ed.
Hey, Ed.
Because Ed does a fantastic podcast, Disenfranchised. I like saying he's a seasoned franchise professional. He loves that expression. But if you're not connected with Ed, then you need to connect with Ed. But he he spends a lot of time on his video and editing, and it looks really professional, and it's a great thing to see as well. But it takes time. It definitely takes time. It takes effort. And there are different ways to do it as well. You can get a less formal version, and you can get a slightly more formal, and you're juggling the engagement, and you're juggling the look of things, and it's a balance. And we've got different things that are available to all of us to use. I'm just going to read what Ed's put here. The only challenge with using predominantly video at the early stages is that you are unable to hear their side of the story, understand their pain points, and convert potential applicants that could go either way. It's an interesting point.
Yeah, I think it depends how formal you want to make the process. Like if you are fundamentally, like I've been in a recruitment situation in the past where I've been recruiting team members, and anybody who's posted a job on a job board, instantly gets deluged with like 200. I think I made the mistake of doing that. Deluged with like 200 people straight away. A lot of them totally unsuitable, but I've still got to sift through and figure out like who are the best ones. So and I also realized that I mean this in a hopefully not too sort of self-aggrandizing way, but I'm too nice, right? I'm not very subjective. I'm not very objective, and so I realized I'm too subjective. Oh, they'll be fine. And then kind of after a couple of hires, I thought, oh, actually, I'm not very good at this. They weren't fine, and that was down to me because I was too like, yeah, they'll be fine. I'm sure it'll work out. And so I hired the first person I needed to recruit was a recruiter who was much more objective. And what they did was filter a load of people out. And then the last few people, they used some software where they would record a video, and I had like 5 people to watch through, right? Now, if you're not getting that volume, then of course, you don't want to put too many barriers up. If you want to be speaking to people, like you want to be getting some feedback. Is my marketing not working? Like I'm not getting many leads. So what are people saying? So yeah, you want to definitely get to the point where you're actually speaking to people earlier in that process.
I think so.
Deluged by leads, and some people I come across a guy recently who was absolutely deluged with like hundreds of leads. Like he can't have that many calls, and he wants to filter people out. But if you want to do that filtering process, video is a great way to do that.
I think so, and maybe this is and I'm very conscious we're getting towards the end now, but maybe this is a point where you convert it from a video sort of showing a day in the life of a franchisee, and think about those Zoom calls. I always prefer, or whatever medium you're using, but I always prefer doing a video call with somebody because you can get an indication of body language, and you can, you get to know someone a little bit more than you would have if you had made a phone call. But I think, the idea of, what hopefully we've done today is to inspire people to use video in more creative ways, to understand.
So many ways you can use it. That's the thing. It's not just social media. There's
exactly.
In fact, I usually encourage people to think of social media later on, because if you're not doing a lot of video, then social media is a really bad place to start because it's quite intimidating.
Yeah, so, and I think if everybody can, just start to be creative, seek the right advice, experiment with doing things different ways, but, realize that we have these tools at our disposal, then we are going to hopefully create a more informed process for franchisees. We're going to be able to help franchisors and entrepreneurs deliver their values and their message down the line in a more productive way, in a realer way. We are really closing up to the hour here, but let's just put a couple of last comments up that Ed has made here, but we'll touch on them briefly. that's not usually the challenge for most franchisors. Usually it's the case of where the leads and how do we find more? Where are the leads and how do we find more? I've been there on the recruitment side for 15 years. I once had 500 applications in one night. Yeah, absolutely. I think it just depends on the challenge. And you said that about video.
Exactly.
It
It's
depends.
also, of course, you've got to just decide like what is the challenge. I think even then, though, I think even if you, I mean, I've spoken to enough franchisors now who, especially when they start out, they regret. Usually the first few people they hire, they regret because they don't know what they're doing. Especially if they didn't use an agency, one of the franchise agencies, and they kind of think, oh, I can manage this, and they get the wrong people, right? And so I think even if you're not using it as a qualification stage, having some of that, answering some of those frequently asked questions, at least people can get engaged and interested in what you're doing, even if you don't make it into a formal, you've got to watch this before I'll talk to you. Now, I'm not saying you always do that. I'm just saying if that is a problem for you, then that is, and I have spoken to a couple of franchisors for whom that was a problem. They I keep wasting my time talking to totally unsuitable people. And so if that's an issue, then this is a really easy way to filter those people out. And actually discourage them. And so the people who get through are absolutely worth spending time because they bothered to go through the hoops. So if you haven't got that issue, then don't put the hoops in the way, of course. Smart with the filters, the wrong exactly. So I think even if you make it quite informal and provide lots of content, then they will kind of, the people who are enthused will go, this sounds amazing. And the people who are the wrong people will go, well, it's not ready for me actually, and I don't really like this guy anyway, right? And not everybody will engage with the franchisor, and they might as well learn that fairly early because and then again, so video becomes a filter in that way as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's been a really good learning for me about using video as a filtering mechanism and using video as that early promotion and how you do that. So I hope everyone's got something interesting from today. I really appreciate everybody's time. I really appreciate your time, Kevin. Very quickly,
I can talk all day. Round it off, pull me off.
Very quickly before we finish, I like to give people an opportunity to just very, very quickly, within sort of 30 or 60 seconds, just to say where people can get hold of you for helping them out with their video marketing. So
best place is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's where I hang out. Just connect with me, DM me on LinkedIn. Be great to talk to you. And what I do may or may not be right for you, but again, we can figure that out. And lovely to talk.
Great, that's fantastic. Thanks very much, Kevin. Once again, thank you to everyone for being here. I hope you got some value. I certainly did. Really looking forward to next week, and we have the wonderful Danny Wareham, and we're going to discuss franchise culture next week. So really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to getting into lots of different topics every Tuesday into 2024. So until then, you all take good care, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.